Signore e signori, buonasera, benvenuti alla Casa Italiana Zerilli-Marimò della New York University per la presentazione del film Me and You. It's Bernardo Bertolucci's last film, the last film that he made in 2012. We had a chance to present it here in that year, but it was within a seminar on a specific topic, so it was not actually a public event, and we are delighted to have a chance to present it again tonight. As you know, at the end of the screening, we'll have the pleasure to have Niccolò Ammaniti, who is the author of the book on which the film is based, here with us with a Q&A with Antonio Monda. Yes, please. This event is made possible thanks to two important organizations. One is New Literature from Europe Festival, and you can pick up brochures upstairs that list all the events that they are curating and presenting in different venues in the city in these days. And the Italian Cultural Institute in New York, courtesy to whom we have the presence of Niccolò Ammaniti. We're delighted to cooperate with the Italian Cultural Institute as we consistently do, and even more so in this period of time. This is a very important film because it was Bertolucci's return on a set after he was wheelchair bound. For a long period of time, it seemed that he would not go back to the set and direct any film. And when he read Ammaniti's book, he decided that that was the chance for him to go back on a set and direct a new film. So it is an event in and of itself because of what it represented for Bertolucci's life and career. And I don't want to tell you anything else about the film, just enjoy the film, and I will see you at the end for the Q&A with Niccolò Ammaniti. Thank you very much. And please welcome Antonio Monda and Niccolò Ammaniti. So for those of you who are upstairs in the library, in the reading room, you can see us on the screen. There are no seats in the auditorium, so you would have to stand if you come down, but if you want to see Niccolò Ammaniti in person, and me, there is one seat there.
Alberto, it's yours. No, please, madam, please.
Tarifa. So before we begin, I want to briefly introduce to you our guest. Antonio Monda is a professor in the Department of Film and Television here at New York University. He writes regularly for La Repubblica, and he just came back from Rome, where he directed his first edition of the Festa del Cinema di Roma. It was a triumphal beginning, and please, he deserves an applause for that. He really made the Rome Film Festival become a festa, a celebration, a party, as he said. And in his style, he opened up the festival not only to cinema, but he had some moments that I seriously envy as director of a cultural institution. He brought in Riccardo Muti to talk about the relationship between cinema and music, and Renzo Piano to talk about architecture and cinema. So these are just two of the small things that Antonio did at the Festa del Cinema di Roma. So it's great to welcome him back to New York and to NYU and to this stage where he has been so many times. Niccolò Ammaniti is a very important Italian author, born in Rome, where he lives in 1966. Many of his books have been translated into English, and I just want to remind you that you will find at least 3 upstairs, and that Niccolò will sign them for you at the end of our conversation. Among his other books translated that you will find, there is I'm Not Scared, that was also made into a film. But as we will see, several, if not all, of your novels have been transformed into 5 out of the ones that, of the 7. 6 probably.
What do you mean probably?
I don't remember. One, I don't know if it's
if we can consider it an adaptation. And his most recent book is entitled Anna, and it just came out in Italy in September, right? And tonight we saw together this film by Bernardo Bertolucci that I believe is the last film he made. It's 2012,
so far.
And his latest film. I believe the very, very last one that he made is a very short film, few minutes, called Scarpette Rosse. It's a very moving account of his life on a wheelchair, and he always wears red sneakers. So basically it's Rome seen through the red sneakers that he sees and the wheelchair and all the problems that people that are wheelchair bound encounter. And Antonio, if you allow me, I would like to ask the first question to Niccolò.
Absolutely.
And from what we understand, this was the first film that Bertolucci directed after he became wheelchair bound. And if you want to tell us something about how that happened, that he read your book and he decided that it was a good enough reason for him to go back to a cinematographic set.
I prefer to speak in Italian because for first I'm very lazy. For second one, because it's better for you. And for the third, because I study French at school, and my mother said you have to learn French because with French you travel all over the world, that there is no problems, and I discovered that it's not like this. So if I speak in Italian, it will be better. No, I know that. I will speak just in Italian. It's better. No, half and half, ok? Ma in realtà Bernardo ha avuto 10 anni di difficoltà, che non faceva film. Io quando l'ho incontrato erano molto tempo che non faceva film perché stava cercando un film che andasse bene per lui. E io avevo avuto relazioni. Vabbè, adesso come facciamo? Io dico. Scusami. Tu mi traduci? Sì, faccio tutto io. E avevamo
Bertolucci didn't make films for 10 years. He had problems and he couldn't find something that would inspire him to make one.
Io l'ho conosciuto quando ho fatto Io non ho paura, perché lui per un breve periodo era interessato a fare quel film, poi ne doveva fare un altro.
He met him briefly when he did I'm Not Scared, because it seemed that he was interested in making a film based on that book, but then at the same time he was making some other movie.
E poi siamo rimasti in contatto, siamo diventati amici e ho pensato che questo film potesse andare bene per lui, anche perché aveva problemi di mobilità.
But we stayed in touch, and then I thought that this book would be good for him to make a movie, also because he had problems moving around.
And so I just give the book to Bernardo, and Bernardo said, "Oh, this can be very interesting, but I have to find a place to exactly, because it was, come si dice, era in una cantina.
A basement.
Was in a basement."
I'm not going to translate him into Italian, don't worry.
Io parlo in inglese e tu mi traduci in italiano.
Va bene così.
E quindi lui ha pensato che in qualche modo quella storia lo riguardava, perché anche lui mi raccontava che in qualche modo si nascondeva quando era piccolo, e quindi è rimasto subito colpito dalla storia e mi ha proposto di fare il film. Io sono stato super felice.
He read the book and he somehow could imagine to be that kid, because as a young kid he used to hide himself, so there was a level of transfer that made him like the book, and he accepted to make a film, and that made me very happy.
E ha praticamente ricostruito la cantina. Quella cantina che vediamo nel film è stata costruita accanto a casa sua, quindi lui bastava che usciva di casa, faceva 200 metri con la carrozzella e poi arrivava in questo posto dove aveva ricostruito una cantina perfetta, e sembra veramente vera vedendola.
And he basically remade that basement a few yards from his home, so he would just get out of his house and come on his wheelchair to the set that he built, and that basement really looks like a basement, but it's not. It's a reconstructed basement. Yeah. Antonio, fai tu. Vai.
In italiano o in inglese? Ok. If you don't mind, I'd like to start with something a little bit different. It's the first time that I come back here at Casa Italiana and I feel a strong, huge absence, and I want to pay homage to Mariuccia Zerilli-Marimò. I think everyone who loves culture, in particular Italian culture, owe her a lot. E ne voglio salutarla con affetto e con amore. Mi fa molta impressione ritornare qui e sapere che non c'è più. E secondo, I would like to say... The second thing, I want to continue with what Niccolò and Stefano just said. It's quite impressive to see how Bernardo Bertolucci made from a tough experience of his life not only a beautiful film, but something that works visually so strong. We all know his wonderful style, his great capacity of framing perfectly everything. But what is really impressive in this film is how, confined on a wheelchair, he still keeps the intensity of framing and the beauty of the image. Now let's go back to the adaptation. I would like to know from Niccolò, 5 or 6 films, it's not important, if he considers that whoever makes a film based on a book should betray the book or should be faithful to the book.
Tough question. Io credo che in generale tradire è sempre meglio che rimanere fedeli, diciamo, nella vita. No, per fortuna non è qua e quindi sto tranquillo.
He says that in life he believes that betraying is always better than remain faithful. And he assured me that his wife is not in the audience.
No, but this is not my personal life.
No,
in general,
non è la tua
like
filosofia
this.
di vita. It's a general statement, it's not nothing personal.
Io ovviamente per un autore secondo me è più interessante se qualcuno, almeno un autore di un libro, se qualcuno poi, come dire, nella sua traduzione cinematografica ti tradisce, si reinventa, ma non è facile questa cosa e credo che i miglior film sono sempre stati quelli che in qualche modo tradivano.
As an author, he finds more interesting when somebody actually betrays what he wrote. It's a much more interesting experience, but it's not easy to find somebody brave enough to betray what you did.
Se penso, che ne so, ad Apocalypse Now, che è uno dei miei film preferiti, partendo da quel libro che era completamente un'altra storia, ambientata in un altro periodo, in Africa piuttosto che nel Vietnam, credo che sia il miglior tradimento cinematografico che ho mai visto in vita mia.
If I think of Apocalypse Now, based of course on Heart of Darkness by Conrad, that takes place in a different place at a different time in a different war, and I do believe that that's the best betrayal ever in the history of cinema.
È anche vero che poi invece ci sono degli autori che riescono, come dire, invece poi a raccontare, riescono a ricreare esattamente quello che è nell'immaginario del lettore, perché il lettore in fondo con un libro ha degli spazi oscuri che riempie ognuno con la propria esperienza.
Of course, the reader has dark spots that he can fill with his own experience, with his own imagination, whereas cinema doesn't have that. Everything is in light, in full light.
E devo dire che per esempio con Gabriele Salvatores, quando mi ha fatto Io non ho paura, Gabriele mi ha chiesto: ma tu dove lo vedresti questo film ambientato? Io ho detto: secondo me deve essere ambientato tra la Puglia e la Basilicata, in un posto preciso che ho visto, e lui è andato lì e ha girato il film lì e devo dire ha ricostruito esattamente quello che era il mio immaginario, quindi sono molto contento in quel caso.
But there are cases in which it's interesting that I have an input on the translation into cinema. For example, in the case of I'm Not Scared, Gabriele Salvatores came to me and asked me where I would have liked, where I would have envisioned the film to take place. And I told him somewhere between Puglia and Basilicata. And he went there to scout some locations. And I was extremely happy with the results and the way in which the location was chosen, according to exactly what I had in mind.
The way I see it, this relationship of betrayal or being faithful, is that it's important for me to betray in order to be faithful. Let me try to explain what I mean. For example, in The Leopard, Il Gattopardo, Visconti and his screenwriters cut completely the last two chapters where you see the death of the prince. But at the same time, and also the decadence of the family. But at the same time, this idea is all through the film. The idea of dying, of being decadent. Another idea would be The Shining, the great Stanley Kubrick film based on a Stephen King novel. In the novel, the real evil guy is the hotel itself, the Overlook itself. This doesn't appear at all in the film, but you feel that something horrible is happening there. And I could continue. Now I would like to ask you something a little bit more personal. Is it true that you also played as an actor in a couple of films? And how did it influence your career?
No, it's not true. But this I can't. It's better to say in English. No.
Never?
Never. No. Once I was in a movie and there was one actor that was sick, so asked me to pass in front of the camera. I said, okay.
That is not acting.
That's all. Yes. And they said that because the problem is that I move a lot of my face. I don't know why. When I have a camera in my, so I was like this, and they said this is not normal. This man.
Niccolò, if I remember well, the end of the book is different from the end of the film. It's actually the book is much sadder. It's much more tragic. How did it happen?
Questa è una domanda importante perché in effetti il film finisce con questi due fratelli che si separano lungo una strada e si lasciano ognuno andare per la propria strada, e nel libro invece, adesso non so se dirglielo, però non so se l'hanno letto.
Finisce in maniera diversa.
No one. So no, I don't want to say the end, but the end was a little bit sad. No, not a little bit.
But the question is why? Why did you change?
L'abbiamo scelto perché, come dire, la letteratura, in fondo, secondo me, scrivere un libro, in un libro è possibile anche con semplicemente una frase, in qualche modo ristabilire, come dire, un equilibrio emozionale o dare un'immagine positiva. Il cinema, essendo fatto invece di immagini, come dire, visive, quando chiude male il film lascia, forse l'ultima immagine può dare come essere quella definitiva e si perde tutto quello che si è fatto prima.
Literature per se is more open-ended than cinema. When you write a sentence, is not as definitive as when you see an image, and a very negative, very pessimistic, very sad image at the end of a film might somehow transform your whole perception of everything that came before in the film.
Exactly. Sì, in questo caso poi c'era una cornice nel libro, che era una cornice in cui il protagonista raccontava questa storia da adulto, e quindi avremmo dovuto in qualche modo fare questo invecchiamento, questa cosa che a me non piace mai, di vedere il protagonista da adulto che raccontava una cosa di quando gli era successa da ragazzo.
And in the book there is this frame in which it's the protagonist that as an adult tells the story that happened to him as a kid. And to do that in cinema is always strange. It's something that I really don't like. We would have had to made him up and make him old and going backward with flashbacks. So it's not the kind of operation that I would have liked in a film.
E poi abbiamo provato a scrivere un finale che in qualche modo rispettasse il libro, simile a quello del libro, però come dire contemporaneo. E abbiamo su quel finale abbiamo lavorato mesi e mesi, ma non eravamo mai soddisfatti.
And we tried to write in the script a finale that would be similar to the one of the book, and we worked on that finale for several months, but we were never satisfied with it.
E poi alla fine ne abbiamo trovato uno, ma tutti sapevamo che non funzionava. E un giorno Bernardo mi ha chiamato durante le riprese e mi ha fatto vedere un premontato.
then we found one, but we all knew that it would not work. And then Bernardo Bertolucci one day called me while he was shooting and showed me a pre-edited version.
Pre-editing. Io ho visto la scena del ballo, la scena in cui loro si uscivano fuori e ho capito, almeno io, e Bernardo era convinto insieme a me, che in fondo quello era il finale, e quindi in realtà le ultime 2 settimane non sono state girate, cioè il film a un certo punto si è concluso da solo.
So I saw the scene in which they dance and they go out, and I thought that, and Bertolucci was convinced with me that that would be the ideal ending of the film, and therefore the last 2 weeks the film was not shot because we thought that that was the right moment for the film to end. Sì, per un'altra.
Every time I meet a novelist, I ask the same question. Do you feel that cinema, film, is a lesser experience, an inferior experience compared to literature, or an equal experience, or a better experience?
Che cosa ti dicono gli altri scrittori?
99% of the writers say that literature is much better, much higher. The only exception that I ever found was Chuck Palahniuk, who say films are much better than literature.
No, io sono nel 99% dei casi, sono molto in questo senso così, come tutti.
Ma superiore, uguale, è solo una forma diversa o una forma superiore alla letteratura?
He says he falls in the 99% of writers, novelists that are convinced that literature is a higher form of art.
Ma io credo per una ragione la letteratura è superiore, perché la letteratura, per quello che dicevo prima, ossia che i libri si fanno al 50% lo scrive l'autore, il 50% lo immagina il lettore, ci sono degli spazi che vengono riempiti dalla propria esperienza personale, dalle proprie memorie. Se io descrivo un personaggio, ognuno poi lo vede come, che ne so, il portiere di casa sua, qualcuno che, o anche un posto che io racconto, poi ognuno lo vede, e quindi questa cosa qui io trovo che sia unica e che lo fa solamente la letteratura, un po' come lo fa anche la musica, come dire, eccita delle memorie.
And he believes that for the reason that he said before, that basically the literary experience is made up 50% by the writer and 50% by the reader, that fills with his own imagination and experiences what is missing in the description of the writer, whereas cinema has to give you the whole thing, the words and the images.
L'hai detto questo a Bertolucci?
No, gliel'ho detto solo dopo che abbiamo fatto il film. No,
Antonio asked whether he told this to Bertolucci and Ammaniti answered only the day after the film was completed.
Ma questa esperienza secondo me la possiamo provare tutti nel momento in cui noi vediamo, che ne so, un film tratto da un romanzo e poi dopo leggiamo il libro, c'è qualcosa che non torna, perché quell'immagine ci impedisce poi di immaginare, e quindi in qualche modo sentiamo che il libro è stato violato in qualche modo dal film.
And the reason why I motivated my preference for literature is in the experience that we all have when we read a book and then see a movie, and very often, if not always, we feel deprived of something, or we feel that our own experience was violated, of course, because the film presents something that is very different from what we imagined while we were reading the book. Ti faccio una domanda sempre su questo tema. I've been teaching some of your books in a course that I teach. It's called Cinema and Literature, and first of all, my students love reading your book, and they also seem to think that the ones that we see are I'm Not Scared e Commedia Comanda, that both these adaptations that are both by Salvatore, correct, are particularly successful comparing them to the other adaptations that we see. But what they notice, my students notice systematically when I teach this course, is that you are a very cinematographic writer. They see in your writing style a very cinematographic style, and when I try to get from them what they mean by that, is that they say it is as if when he's writing, he's already thinking of the film that is coming out of his pages. Is that
No,
an impression of my students, or is it?
No, in general, all the readers said these things. But I think this is the problem to translate my books in movies, because sometimes è così visivo che poi comunque alla fine non sono quasi mai contenti dei film che fanno.
That's one of the many readers have the same impression, and but because my films are so visual that very often people feel my books are so visual that the reader finds that the visual representation that the director gives is very different from their own, and that's the reason why they feel betrayed.
And for this, I think they have to betray my books.
And that's a good reason to betray my books. I would like to open now the conversation to our very, very attentive audience. So if you have any question. Angela.
I started to read Anna, and I had to stop for like 10 days. And then I read in 2 days. And usually your book, even when like you and Te are very sad, there is always some nice and hopeful side. But reading Anna, I found a lot of despair, even at the end. I felt the despair, and I was stunned by that and surprised, and I was asking why there is so much despair, especially in this book, even with this wonderful girl, Anna, and Pietro, and the dog. Everything is so wonderful, but so much despair. It's not a critic. I loved the book. I read in 2 days, of course.
Okay.
And thank you for for no paura. This is my karma. Almost every day I repeat to myself, I'm not scared.
Thank you, Angela. Angela is referring to the last book that Niccolò Ammaniti published in Italy, Anna, that is, very briefly, diciamo di cosa parla? Vuoi dirlo tu?
Vuoi dirlo tu?
Sì. It's the story of two siblings, a brother and a sister, two young kids, that find themselves in a sort of very surreal situation. There is some mention of it at the beginning of this movie when the boy Lorenzo is having dinner with his mother, and he tells her, imagine that the virus comes and it kills everybody except the two of us. Well, in that case, the virus in Anna is a virus that first gets sick, the adults, and then as they progress in age, they all die. So the world is populated only by kids. So very roughly speaking, this is the summary. And
but like this, you never read this book because you said this is terrible. But if you believe me, there is a lot of hope, and we are not sure that it's like this. So Anna try to find a way to survive.
Are there plans to translate the book in English already?
Will be at the end of the year.
Okay. What about a movie made based on Anna?
I'm thinking. I'm not sure. I have to find a way, but I'm discussing with some directors. Ma io sono diventato molto, forse dipende da me che sono invecchiato, e quindi le cose le vedo sempre in maniera un po' più cupa. Infatti sono preoccupato. Prossimo libro non so cosa farò.
Maybe to answer Angela's question, maybe it depends on me that I'm getting older and I become darker. So I'm very worried about what my next book is going to be about.
And I have two completely style of writing. One is like Anna or Me and You or I'm Not Scared, and another one is completely comedy, like Let's the Game Begin, or the short stories of Fango, or in some way Ti prendo e ti porto via. There was a mix between tragedy and comedy. So I don't know, it happens. I don't know why. It's very difficult to understand why you write a story or another one.
Going back to the adaptation of Anna, I'm not trying to get you to tell us secrets or pre-production things. How does the process work? When you publish a book, now obviously you are a perfect candidate for a movie to be made out of it. How does that work? Do directors come to you? Do you have a director in mind and you approach them? It seems like it's a rather hands-on project for you. It's not something that your agent does or that the publishing company does. You seem very involved in this, and also you contribute to the script of most of all the films that have been made based on your books. So it's not something that you leave to others. So I was interested in understanding how the process works.
Intanto conviene perché ti pagano a scrivere la sceneggiatura.
Makes perfect sense. Gabriele D'Annunzio, when he was asked to write the intertitles for Cabiria by Pastrone,
No,
said
one reason is because
it.
they pay you, so it's nice. And the other one is because when you write a book, you are very lonely. You are alone, and you write for years without ever relations with people. And when you write a screenplay is like to write to work on a homework with friends when you are in school, so it's nice, and it's a moment completely different of the life. In generale devo dire che leggono il libro, poi mi chiamano il mio agente e mi chiedono di fare il film, e io valuto ogni volta in maniera diversa.
Bene. Altre domande? Sally.
Se bisogna tradurgliela.
He says that when it comes to... Dov'è che ti sei fermato per l'italiano?
No, dicevo che vengono...
Okay, yes. To answer my question, normally people read his books and then they approach either him or his agent and he evaluates the proposals from the different directors and finally chooses who the lucky one is going to be. Sally. I feel very funny translating Sally Fisher into English, but I'll do it. I'd be happy to. Okay.
I really felt that the character was lovely. It's not often that you see a young boy who's so beautiful. He seemed so old yet so young, and it was sweet, the combination. And I wondered at the beginning, there was a scene with the psychiatrist, and I thought that was very nice. I haven't read the book. I look forward to it. And I wondered if the scene in the beginning actually exists in the book. And I just thought that was a nice moment that maybe you and Bernardo put in the movie, and I really liked it.
Great question and perfect translation. Thank you.
Bernardo, quando ha letto il libro, ha detto: quello sei tu e non c'è stato niente da fare. Era convinto che io ero il protagonista e io dicevo: guarda che non sono io. E quando ha cercato lo studio, nel libro ci sta effettivamente la stessa scena, più o meno. Ha detto: mio padre fa lo psichiatra. E ha detto: beh, io lo devo girare nello studio di tuo padre. Io ho detto: ma perché lo devi fare nello studio di mio padre? E non c'è stato niente da fare.
So the scene, as a matter of fact, is in the book. It's present in the book, maybe slightly different, but it's there. And when Bertolucci read the book, he decided immediately that I was the boy. And no matter how many times I told him that it was not me, it was somebody else, it was a fictional character, he was convinced of that. And when we had to decide about the specific scene with the psychiatrist, Niccolò Ammaniti's father is a psychiatrist, and Bernardo Bertolucci absolutely wanted to shoot that scene in his father's study. And he didn't want to, but there was no way to make him change his mind. So the room that we saw, it's actually
No. At the end, I was not happy because there was no light in the studio of my father. So I was very
l'idea era
happy.
quella.
But I remember that the day he went to the study of my father, I was just out of the building, waiting and hoping that was not the right one and was not the right. So I was very happy.
Thank you. Zarifa.
Sì, mi scuso che non ho ancora visto le traduzioni sopra, quindi non so se è stato sempre lo stesso traduttore a seguire i tuoi libri. Volevo sapere da te innanzitutto cosa pensi dei traduttori, se sono scrittori anche loro, almeno per metà, e poi volevo sapere se ti è mai capitato di avere un rapporto diretto con qualcuno di loro, con lo stesso che ti ha seguito finora, magari come hai fatto con il regista, se qualcuno ti ha seguito può entrare nella tua testa, nel tuo mondo. If you want, I can try to translate this.
No, it's a very interesting question regarding another form of adaptation, that is translation. And Zarifa is asking whether he has always had the same translator for the English publisher or different, and what is his relationship with his translators, whether he has any kind of relationship with them, and how it is.
Are you a translator?
Yes, I am.
I was sure. Allora, nei miei libri tradotti in inglese ho avuto 2 traduttori in realtà, però il mio traduttore preferito è un traduttore inglese col quale mi trovo molto bene, anche se io, come dire, l'inglese sì, non è che lo parlo così bene, quindi leggendolo mi sembrava un'ottima traduzione. Però i miei libri sono stati tradotti in tanti paesi, e a un certo punto un libro è stato tradotto in indiano, e quindi io avevo una persona che veniva a casa mia e gli ho detto leggilo e dimmi se è tradotto bene.
And there are 2 translators into English. His favorite one is a British translator, but his books have been translated in many countries in many different languages. And when the Hindu edition of one of his books arrived, he called somebody who spoke Hindu at his place and asked him to read it and see, and ask him how the translation was, whether it worked.
E lui mi ha detto che non era male, però dato che non leggeva in italiano siamo rimasti tutti e 2 convinti che non era male in tutte e 2.
But since the person who spoke Hindu that read the Hindu translation could not speak Italian, he replied, it reads pretty well, but I really have no idea to access the original, so I don't know how it relates to the translation.
Are they writers?
Sorry?
Sono scrittori?
Ah sì, non lo so, no, non credo, non lo so, no, quello lì che traduce in inglese non è un traduttore, fa il professore di inglese.
Specifically, the English translator who lives in England is not a full-time writer, he's a professor of English.
I know that when was translated in English and after was bring in the USA, they decide to work on the translation because was not exactly the way they like in here. So I don't know why, but there was some difference.
Some changes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
So, what were the inspiration for the stories?
Ah, bella domanda. In general? Oh, for this book?
For this movie.
Ah, for this movie, sorry. Ma io in realtà cerco sempre di dire che i libri non sono molto biografici che scrivo, però in questo caso forse è quello più autobiografico che ho scritto. This was perché anch'io avevo una cantina.
He always says that there is nothing autobiographical in his books, but this specific one has autobiographical elements, and he too had a basement.
E in questa cantina io passavo molto tempo della mia vita e E all'inizio avevo pensato che in qualche modo dentro quella cantina immaginavo che ci fosse un buco che mi permetteva come di fuggire, di andarmene da un'altra parte. Era una specie mi ero costruito una specie di casetta lì dentro, e quindi da questa idea ho immaginato poi tutto il resto della storia.
So in this basement, I would spend a lot of time as a young kid, and it was for me a place where I built a little home, and where I would spend time, and so it begins from there. It's from my experience in the basement of my house.
E siccome c'erano oggetti dei miei nonni, di tante persone erano finiti lì dentro, era molto interessante perché ogni oggetto in qualche modo poi riportava a delle vite passate, e quindi in qualche modo mi sembrava un mondo completo.
And since there were many objects that were in this basement coming from previous generations, from my grandparents and before, every object seemed to have a story to tell, and it created a world of its own. Yes?
Ciao, volevo sapere se il tuo impegno nella realizzazione poi del film insieme a Bertolucci comprendeva anche la scelta degli attori, o ha fatto tutto?
The question is about the casting, and the lady wants to know whether he was involved in the casting choices of Bertolucci, or whether that's something that Bertolucci did on his own.
Allora, con Bertolucci non puoi decidere niente, dice tutto lui.
It's clear. With Bertolucci, you get to decide absolutely nothing. He decides everything for you.
Anche giustamente.
And rightly so.
E c'è anche il fatto che in qualche modo c'è la sensazione che è come se tu costruisci, come se tu fai nascere un bambino, poi lo dai a qualchedun altro che lo deve far crescere, però lo dai in affidamento a qualchedun altro, quindi non vuoi più sapere niente.
So on one hand, there is the sensation that you had a baby, and then you give it to somebody else as a adoptive parent, but on one hand you're worried, but at the same time you don't want to know anything else about what happens to the baby. Yes.
I have a question regarding the characterization. So we have like two characters. One is a narcissistic little kid, lonely, and the other one is this artist, which is also like a drug addict that is going through whole Turkey and is trying to not relax. So my question is, what have inspired you to put these two characters that are completely different and conflicted together in a basement? So what was the main inspiration? Was there a movie or feelings or I don't know, personal experience?
Ma io my main interest was to just speak about this boy, but a boy alone for a week inside was very, very difficult. So I decided I need another character inside, and for me it was very important that it was completely an opposite. So the building, the construction of the sister was created. È stata creata per far crescere meglio poi il protagonista, che era il ragazzo.
So the sister was really conceived as a supporting role in order to help the emotional growth of the boy.
E un'altra cosa era che in fondo due fratelli possono avere idee completamente opposte di quello che sono i genitori se non hanno vissuto insieme, e questo è molto interessante.
And the other thing is that two siblings can have ideas completely different from the ideas of their parents, especially if they didn't live together. Yes, we have time for one more question. The gentleman back there. The preference is whether Niccolò Ammaniti prefers to write short stories or full-fledged novels.
No, mi piacciono tutti e due, devo dire. Un racconto scritto in poco tempo può dare molta soddisfazione, e è la sensazione di aver fatto un'impresa rapida e piacevole. libro ho detto che in fondo un racconto è una notte di passione, un romanzo è una storia d'amore, quindi sono due cose. Cioè, avevo scritto che un racconto è una scopata e il libro è una storia d'amore, poi me l'hanno corretto e mi hanno messo una notte di passione perché non si poteva mettere in quarta.
I know you're all waiting for my translation of this. He likes writing both, and they're two different things. Of course, in writing a short story that comes out well, you have the impression of having achieved a beautiful enterprise very fast. But the metaphor I use for the short story and the novel is that one is like a night of passion or a one-night stand or a hookup, and the other one is a love story. He likes both. I think this is a great definition, a great way of getting out of a rather complicated question otherwise. And with this, it's all the time that we have. I want to remind you that this is basically the inaugural opening event of New Literature from Europe Festival. They put together a really impressive program of writers. There are flyers upstairs, and even if you're Italians, make sure to check out the other writers. I assure you they're all pretty interesting. And I also want to remind you that Niccolò Ammaniti is here thanks to the Italian Cultural Institute in New York that supported his trip. I want to thank once again Antonio Monda and Niccolò Ammaniti for being here with us tonight.